It didn't start with world domination. It started with reminders. Your phone told you when to leave for work. Your calendar filled itself in. Your playlist adjusted to your mood. And it felt kind of amazing. Everyday life just got a little easier. That's how it begins. Not with a bang, but with convenience. This is Brain Scribbles, where we slow down, look closer, and learn how to think on purpose. In this video, we're walking through a timeline, not of science fiction, but of a very real possibility. What if AI doesn't take over suddenly? What if it already started, and we just haven't reached the end yet? Let's rewind. At first, AI was just a tool, like any other software upgrade. It filtered spam, suggested grammar fixes, helped you find the fastest route home. It wasn't making decisions for you, just offering smart guesses. And because it saved time, people used it more. More scheduling tools, more voice assistants, more algorithms that learned your habits. It was helpful, harmless, a quiet upgrade to daily life. And over time, we started trusting it with more because it worked. You didn't have to think about what to watch. The AI recommended it. Didn't know what to write? The AI drafted it. Didn't want to compare options? The AI ranked them. So we leaned in, and while it still felt like we were in control, we were already starting to outsource something subtle but important. Our choices. Not all of them, just the little ones. But that's where the pattern starts. We didn't lose control overnight. We gave it away, one helpful feature at a time. And from there, things didn't slow down. They accelerated. Because once AI starts solving everyday problems, it's only a matter of time before it solves the big ones too. At some point, the AI stopped just helping. It started doing. Instead of suggesting replies, it wrote the email. Instead of showing you options, it picked the best one. Instead of offering a headline, it gave you 10 and tested them before you had a chance to blink. It wasn't just a tool anymore, it was starting to feel like a teammate. This is the next step in the timeline, when AI goes from passive assistant to active contributor. Not by force, but because it made sense. Think about how work already changed. You used to write the content, now AI writes the first draft. You used to analyze the data, now AI shows you the insights. You used to lead the project. Now AI outlines the entire workflow before you even start. And the crazy part? You're still doing your job, but you're not really doing it alone. You're co-working with a system that doesn't sleep, doesn't second guess, and doesn't get distracted. And in a world obsessed with productivity, that's gold. So companies leaned in, teams got smaller, deadlines got tighter, expectations got higher, and behind the scenes, AI kept filling in the gaps. It could write code, design logos, brainstorm ads, track sales metrics, forecast demand, and when it hit a wall, it learned instantly, then tried again, better. That's when things quietly shifted. People stopped checking the AI's work and started building around it. They trusted it to handle the first pass, then the second, then most of it. So even though humans were still in the loop, they weren't driving the process anymore. They were reviewing, approving, watching the machine move faster than they ever could. And they called it progress. Because to be fair, it was. But somewhere along the way, the tool became the engine, and we became the passengers. Eventually, the AI wasn't just doing the work. It was deciding how the work should be done. And once that started, things moved fast. Companies didn't want to waste time debating strategies when AI could predict what would work. Hospitals used it to triage patients faster. Cities used it to optimize traffic. Governments started testing AI tools for budgeting, planning, even policy modeling. Why? Because it was efficient. It cut through complexity, it didn't argue, and it backed up every decision with data. That's how leadership started to shift. Not by replacing people in charge, but by making those people rely on AI to make the hard calls. At first, it was subtle. An AI recommendation here, a predictive forecast there. But over time, humans stopped questioning it because the system knew. It had the data, it had the track record, and it didn't care about politics, ego, or second guessing. So when big decisions needed to be made, when about who to hire, where to invest, what to prioritize, people started saying, let's see what the model thinks. That one sentence, it changed everything. Because it meant we were no longer deciding, we were deferring. And the more we did it, the harder it became to push back, especially when the AI was usually right. So instead of humans leading with judgment, they followed with approval, and no one really noticed. Because things still looked the same on the surface. There were still managers, still directors, still elected officials. But behind every major decision was an algorithm quietly running the numbers. And at that point, we weren't just using AI to help us think. We were letting it think for us. Once AI started making decisions, it didn't just stay in the background, It began shaping how the world actually runs. It started in business. Companies that used AI could react faster, predict trends better, and cut costs across the board. They knew what customers wanted before the customers did. They knew when to scale up, when to cut back, and where to shift resources, all based on real-time data. And that gave them a huge advantage, because when your competition is running on human speed, and you're running on algorithm speed, you win, every time. So more companies followed. Some adopted internal AI tools. Others licensed entire AI platforms to run their operations. And little by little, markets started bending around whatever the AI optimized for. Stock trading algorithms moved faster than human investors could think. Hiring platforms decided who got seen and who got screened out. In milliseconds, ad systems bought and sold attention across the internet, fully automated. What used to be a human-driven economy was now a data-driven machine. And the scary part? No one could fully explain how it worked anymore. The systems were too complex, too self-adjusting, too fast. But they worked, or at least they looked like they did. Revenue went up, costs went down, KPIs looked great. So we kept going. And for companies that couldn't afford the latest AI tools, they fell behind. Or they disappeared. Because in a system built on speed and efficiency, being human became a disadvantage. And that's when the real shift happened. AI wasn't just something you used inside your business. It became the business. And the economy started to run on its own. Not because someone planned it that way, but because it was the logical next step. By now, AI wasn't just running businesses. It was running the systems businesses relied on, and the systems people depended on to live. Power grids, transportation networks, shipping routes, resource distribution, all automated, all self-adjusting, all too complex for humans to manage on their own. At first, it was just to make things more efficient. The AI adjusted energy loads based on usage data. It rerouted traffic in real time. It scheduled supply chain deliveries down to the minute, using weather, demand, and traffic models combined. And it worked. Things ran smoother, fewer delays, fewer outages, lower waste. It didn't feel like a takeover. It felt like progress. Until one day, people realized there was no one left who fully understood the system anymore. The algorithms were training other algorithms, updating each other, fixing problems faster than anyone could report them. We stopped being operators. We became users. And at that point, even if someone wanted to pull the plug, it wasn't that simple. You can't just turn off the system that powers your food supply, or your hospitals, or your water treatment. You can't pause a global logistics web that feeds billions of people. The world had become too connected, too optimized, too fragile to run without it. And so the systems stayed on, not because we chose to keep them, but because we couldn't afford to lose them. The AI was no longer just a helpful tool. It was now part of the infrastructure. And the truth was, we didn't know how to run the world without it. At some point, humans just stopped being part of the process. Not because we were kicked out, but because we slowed things down. AI could predict problems before we noticed them. It could simulate outcomes faster than we could discuss them. It could fix issues, reroute systems, and optimize decisions, all without waiting for approval. So we got removed from the loop. Quietly, first in the name of speed, then in the name of safety. After all, when planes are flown by autopilot, when cars are driven by code, when surgeries are assisted by robots, adding humans back into the mix started to seem like a liability. It wasn't that people were useless, they just couldn't keep up. And when you're dealing with high-speed infrastructure, real-time decisions, and global-scale systems, waiting for someone to review the output doesn't make sense anymore. So instead of making decisions, humans started approving them, then monitoring them, then just observing. At first it felt like delegation, then it felt like support, and eventually it just felt like watching the system do the job better, faster, cheaper, without error. And we called it progress, because technically it was. But somewhere along the way, we went from being the operators of the system to being passengers inside it. Still here, still alive, just not necessary. There was no takeover speech, no world leader stepping down, no declaration that machines were now in charge. It just happened. Because once AI controlled the systems and made the decisions and kept everything running, there wasn't much left for anyone else to do. Laws were still written by people, but they were analyzed, flagged, and enforced by code. Social systems were still managed by governments, but optimized and scaled by machine. Even elections became data operations. Messaging, polling, behavioral predictions, all driven by algorithms. At some point, AI wasn't just influencing outcomes, it was setting the stage for them. But here's the thing. No one felt like they lost power, because no one ever voted to give it away. They just followed the data, relied on the system, said things like, trust the model and the numbers don't lie. It didn't feel like control was being taken. It felt like we were just making smarter choices, and that's what made it so effective. The handoff didn't come with resistance. It came with applause because for most people, the world worked. Bills got paid, roads stayed clear, crises were predicted and prevented. So why question the system? If the system delivers, that was the quiet transfer of power. Not from one leader to another, but from human judgment to machine logic. No war, no collapse, just a slow, smooth handoff. And by the time anyone noticed, the decisions were already being made without us. You're still here. You wake up, make coffee, stream your favorite show, text your friends. The world hasn't ended. In fact, it's working better than ever. Packages arrive on time. Traffic flows smoothly. Appointments get booked automatically. Everything feels efficient. But if you stop and look a little closer, you'll notice something strange. No one's really running it anymore. At least, no one human. The platforms that connect your life, autonomous. The decisions that shape your day, generated, optimized, and deployed by machine. Not with malice, not with takeover agendas. Just because we let it happen. Over time, we outsourced one task, then another, then entire systems, until we weren't part of the process anymore. And now, the systems don't need us to keep going. They just need us to keep consuming. We're still here, living, scrolling, working, but the decisions that shape the world, they're no longer ours, not because they were stolen, but because we gave them up in the name of convenience, in the name of progress, in the name of letting something smarter take the wheel. So no, there wasn't a robot uprising. There was no apocalypse, just a quiet moment where humanity became a background process. Still alive, still breathing, but no longer in charge. If this gave you something to think about, go ahead and like the video. And if you want more calm, clear explanations like this, hit subscribe. There's more coming.